I'm out and about and I'm walking in a glorious park called Claybury Park, just here in the woods in Essex, right on the edge of London. And you can see London on the horizon, though it's a bit hazy today. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is I did a lot of walking during the lockdown months, and when I came out into nature, the thing that I found was it's a very calming place. Nature is just full of creativity, certainly variety, and I found that really inspiring. And of course we were allowed most of the time, if not all of the time individually, to go for some exercise, and we were lucky in Brighton to have the Downs, the Sussex Downs next to us, and the sea just a few minutes walk away. And that walk not only got me a bit fitter, but I just found it was a place to just be still. Other people I've spoken to find they're going to nature to get inspired, find it an immensely creative place. And you may have seen images of people painting out in nature, capturing it, being inspired by it, and writers going there, finding their favourite park bench or taking a picnic and then writing, inspired by nature. I'd say the opposite happened to me. It was a place I went almost to get away from my own creativity. I didn't stop and tend to write stuff. Although I recorded a few things. I found that when we were locked in and I was in my garden shed, that's actually when a smaller panorama seemed to open, as if my version of that wider nature was in my head, and I wrote loads. And that's been a big part of that creativity too. And you can find that you're both very different as two people with the same wish to be more creative. You can find that going out into, you can hear a jogger going by, maybe I'll just show them, and he comes out to nature to get fit. But you can find that one person, they go for their walks, they go sit down in Brighton, some swim in the sea, not to be inspired by anything, but just it calms them, it relaxes them. Whereas other people, it's the place they find their muse, they find their ideas. So in my case, it was the opposite, and being indoors. And actually I would say a bit of nature in my garden opened up what I've called the smaller panorama. And it was like everything stretched to infinity, because I got lots of ideas through being locked down. And it's worth thinking about that for you as well. What did you do during lockdown? Just hearing the silence of nature for a moment. You might have heard that, but I let the birds do the talking out here, and there are plenty of them here in Claybury Park. And so if you're somebody that wants to get more creative and you don't know the answer to my question, where do you find that creativity, you might want to try a bit of both. You might want to take that walk by the sea, if you're lucky to live by the sea, even just to your local park, find out a bit of nature. And even if you live in a block of flats, there may be somewhere you can walk where there's just a square with some trees, and early in the morning it's quiet. Do you find that when you sit in nature, when you walk in nature and have a good think, just be in the silence, that ideas come to you, that you can take a problem into nature and find that ideas, answers, suggestions come out of the place around you or in your head, and you find that nature is inspiring you to be more creative? Or do you find that it's calmed you? You don't want to say anything, you just want to walk silently. And what that does is that just creates sometimes the silence, where out of that silence, when you get home and the walls have closed in a bit, actually if you open up a piece of writing, blank sheet of paper, a document on your computer, now you find you can think, and it's actually in that horizon inside your head, when there isn't this wider nature, that you get creative. For some people it's both, and it can be different at different times, but knowing where your creativity is sparked, is it in that inner place or that outer place, is a really good place to find out a bit more about yourself and to make use of that, to be more creative when you want to be. Back to nature for me.